Hello, my name is John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from northern British Columbia and from the capital of northern British Columbia, Prince George. And it's an absolute beautiful day in Prince George. It's via downtown Prince George. In the background, you see the city of Prince George. Prince George in northern BC is the most beautiful place in the world, in my opinion. And for all those international people watching this show, if you visit Canada, which you must do, make sure you don't forget northern BC. It's an amazing, amazing place. I have a special guest today. Ivan Paquette is my guest. Ivan, and not only a guest, but he's also a friend. Ivan, welcome to the show.
Thank you kindly, John. It's an honor to be here, and I was looking forward to this. I was looking forward over the last, since Scott had mentioned, he said, "How'd you like to be a guest on the show?" And
yes.
I've known you off and on, and I know your work in the community, and I would just, and reading your book, and just wanted to sit beside you and share.
I love it.
Yeah.
And actually, Ivan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Your background, your connection to northern BC in particular, the connection to First Nations. You're an amazing individual in the community in a lot of ways, and today is actually a special day because I believe it is September 29th.
It is.
And that means September the 30th is a very, very important day for all of us in Canada.
Yes.
It's the Truth and Reconciliation Day. And you have been very, very involved in that, and obviously we will talk about that as well.
Absolutely.
So start maybe to kind of let me know who you and our guests know as to some of your background.
Some of my background, John, is deep rooted. I was born and raised here. I was actually baptized out in Giscombe at 9 months. Where is that? Just Giscombe is if you go out east. Yeah. And there's a turnoff there, the Giscombe turnoff. And you go all the way. And Giscombe was a place where there was a lot of wood. Yeah. And it was a
lot of lumber mills.
A lot of lumber mills all the way through there, all through Willow River. Yeah. Willow River's out there, and a whole bunch of other communities out there. You just take it all the way to Penny. Yeah. So I was born here in the hospital, Prince George Regional Hospital. Yeah. By my biological mom, and she was 17 years old. Yeah. And then my father my father adopted me after he met Adam Whiting. So he never knew he had a father, which is really interesting. Is that it wasn't until about 9 months he received a call. He got all dressed up, and my grandma and my grandpa, and he wanted to meet me for the very first time. Yeah. So my dad had a girlfriend at the time, and her name was Adam Whiting. So Adam Whiting came from a business family. Yeah. And they've been rooted here since 1912 in Prince George. Yeah. So they decided they had to do something, so they both legally adopted me. So my mom, Anna, is on my birth certificate, and my father, even though she wasn't my birth mother. So I found that really cool. So it gave me a really good optic, growing up. But I was born and raised here. I was finished. I went to high school here. Yeah. I had a dream. I was very athletic. Yeah. And I was very athletic. I remember the YMC races in Prince George back in the 70s. Yeah. And used to do those 10-kilometer runs. Yeah. And there was also, I ran all the way, I was in a race in 1973. Right. And in 1973, I ran all the way from, in a race all the way from Hubble Farm to Prince George. And it was called Moccasin Miles. Yeah. And woke up, my parents woke me up and said, they were taking me out there, and I found a little poster at work. I mean, not work, I wasn't work, but school, right? School work. Yeah, yeah. So they said, well, if that's what you want to do. So they put me in this race, and I ended up winning part of that, and had a one little trophy. And all through my high school years, I took up all the athletics. Yeah. Athletics were a big part of my life.
Did you get the trophy?
I did. I didn't bring it, but
I was going to say, have you still got, because you always remind me to be a guy. You came in, you had your guitar, and you had some other memorabilia. Very important that we're going to talk about later. But you're always the guy that you're always ready for whatever event occurs. In fact, some other things you got sitting in your bag. I always find it amazing. You're so ready, you're so prepared, right?
Organized. You bet. You know,
I love it.
So one of the things I think where it comes into athletics now is that Tom Massage, the late Tom Massage, wanted me on his sports teams. Yeah. And on the track and field team, but we moved away. My father moved away. I was in grade 10, and I had a little difficult time. Back in the character building days, there was a lot of turmoil in schools between Indigenous and non-Indigenous kids. Yeah. And I was just one of the one who stood up for himself. Yeah. And my father taught me how to stand up for myself. Don't go looking for fights. Yeah. But get through school. He was his first priority, and I grew up reading lots. Reading lots and loved music and sports. So I always read lots. Always read. Keeping my mind.
Hunger for information.
Absolutely. I was thirsty. There's no internet. There's no cell phones. No nothing.
No, not then.
So but my father would buy encyclopedias. Yeah. The Britannicas and the children's version. Yeah, yeah. So he would always question me. He'd ask me, and also on Guinness Book of World Records and stuff like that. So he wanted me to use my brain. Exactly. And he was smart. My dad was smart. Yeah. So we moved to a place called Chetwynd. Yeah. And I stayed there for a few months.
Chetwynd, north of Prince George, right? Yep. How far about? 3 hours, 4 hours?
Probably about 3 hours, about 200 miles. Yeah. So it didn't work out there. So I left. I left home when I was about a little over 15. I wanted to come and finish school here with my friends, and so I graduated here in 1983. Okay. So but I was always hanging out by the theater, by Venue Hall, and by the music room, and I was inspired because I always wanted to be a musician, and I wanted to be a musician, wanted to be a doctor, and an artist, and I was a poet. I always thought outside the box. Yeah. So that journey took me to the Venue Hall to learn about lighting, about stagecraft, about acting, and so I graduated in '83, and I had a dream. I wanted to inspire kids, and so I worked in my first job after high school. I worked in the field in Strathcona, and there was nothing there. Yeah. There was just a field. If you ever go to Strathcona, it's just a field.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing. So so what do we do?
Why did you go there?
It was where we were. Basically, there was a couple of us we were at. That's where we thought we could get some children. We got some basketballs and some baseballs, and we had some baseball gloves and some bats and stuff to try and encourage young people to get active. Participate in some activities and stuff. Right. It was a youth recreation program. Okay. A 6-month project. I mean, I didn't even know anything about projects. I'm 17 years old out of the box, and but it lasted for about 6 months. And the hard part, and as I always share this piece, is that we started out with about half a dozen kids, and all of a sudden you got 25, 30 kids or more coming out to these activities every single day, right, Monday to Friday. What happened, John, was that there was the end of the program. So this is in 1984. I'm 18 years old, and I was the one they asked if I could go to the field and let the kids. There was going to be no more program. And I drove there and I had no basketballs, no football, nothing in there. It was just I feel like a musky day. It was rainy, real slushy. Yeah. And go tell the kids that there was no program. You're talking over 20 kids in a field who have nothing. Yeah. But hope, and there was love and connection. Yeah. And before you know it, the children they were crying, and I'll never forget that. Yeah. It choked me up inside. And I mentioned to them, I will go find out why, and I'll be back. Yeah. And knowing that journey took me, because the following year I moved to Vancouver. My friends moved to Vancouver. I moved to Vancouver when I was 19, received a phone call, and to go meet my mom. My mom wanted to meet me. I said, okay, what? Only to find out it was my biological mother. So, and all my friends in Vancouver, my biological mom's in Vancouver. I moved to Vancouver and I slept on the couch for about a year. And ended up, I had a security license, ended up being seconded by a unionized outfit, a security outfit. They actually seconded to pick up liquor board money for about a year and a half. And that was interesting. We're changing cars all the time and doing all sorts of wild, and it was, you're 19 years old at the time. And I started thinking about music. I started thinking about writing music because I wrote my first song when I was 15. I was thinking about music, thinking about acting and stuff. And then, so I ended up moving to New Westminster with a buddy of mine. And then we stayed together for about, roommates for about a year and a half, and then I ended up moving on my own. And that's when things really started to take off. I suffered a back injury from lifting heavy pipe, and it's L5, right? And I started to felt this pain and was shooting up, and I couldn't move one day. I'm in my early 20s, and you're packing heavy schedule pipe, for mechanical trades.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to make a big change in my life. I want to do what I want to do. And they were telling me, Ivan, if there's something you want to do in your life, go do it. So I was supported in that sense. So I was driving down Hastings one day. And seen a Friendship Center on Hastings Street in Vancouver. And
You saw what?
The Friendship Center.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I went there and went to the Friendship Center. And in those doors, and someone asked me if I wanted a bowl of soup and a piece of bannock, and come sit down with everybody. And then there was an announcement. I remember the announcement over the radio. They were looking. There was an agency called Touch of Culture, and her name was Lady Deidre Sam, and she was looking for actors and artists and musicians and anybody who had entertainment. So I hopped in my Mustang, went right down there right away, and made connection with her.
Yeah.
And and it was in the old CBC building on Georgia Street, and that was her location.
Yeah. So
I went there, and I went through the doors, and I just got these goosebumps, and my gut filled up, and I was home. And so I was there almost every day. I drove all the way from New Westminster to downtown Vancouver because I wanted to participate. I really wanted to do something, and it was so I had some money, and it was. I was in a relationship at the time, and it was, I got introduced to a world where, living, in West Vancouver on the water, driving BMWs and all sorts of cool things.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really, something, and I felt like there was something good going to take place, if I kept pushing forward in entertainment.
Exactly.
So what happened is I ended up helping my agent, and I was giving a lot of my monies to help my agent so that I would keep the doors open,
right,
and to help the actors. So I was sent to a lot of different sets. You're talking like what do you call it? It was MacGyver and 21 Jump Street and Black Stallion series and all sorts of different things at the time. This is in the in the late 80s, early part of the 90s. And I went to a movie set. They were shooting a movie, and the guy called me over and he said, "You're on the same path as Charlie Sheen. He's just coming out, and then his brother Emilio Estevez, and he said there's a couple of you guys, that are really, got something. You've got that. Have you ever heard of a principle?" I said, "The star principle." Right. It's a natural gift. They say you've got that. Yeah. And so that was encouraging, and then so the difficulty at that time, because I went to an audition for The Last of the Mohicans, just around that same time. I was with a guy by the name of Eric.
And were you doing singing and playing guitar?
You betcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, singing, playing guitar, writing songs. And then I was driving to a movie set, to not a movie set, but an audition. And they used to call them cattle calls.
Yeah.
So I went to this audition, and I had a guy by the name of Eric Schwig with me.
Okay.
So Eric came in. He came with me. He went for audition. I came out, and he went out, and I went in. And so we're driving to my place back in New Westminster, have a coffee. He's playing harmonica. You know, I had a T roof in this Mustang, so it was a really cool car. Put a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
We came, and they had no cell phones at the time.
No.
As soon as we got there, he said, Ivan, you know, picked up the phone. He said, you missed it by a hair. Missed what by a hair? Didn't understand the lingo.
Yeah.
You missed a part by the hair. Then Eric's still with you.
Why?
And Eric, she said, and she is, and so I gave the phone to Eric, and he asked if I can take him downtown and go see the producer, and that was the last I seen Eric, and he went on to do some amazing stuff, and within a few months I ended up coming back to Prince George after losing. I was dealing with grief. I couldn't emotionally connect with my parts.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with grief from the loss of my brother.
Yeah.
And that's what brought me back to Prince George. And
was he living here, your brother?
he was living here, but he came down to stay with me for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he came back, and you know, about 6 months later, he had passed, and everything. My life was heading in this direction.
Yeah.
And I was, but it hit me.
Yeah.
And I just remembered the kids that I worked with.
Yeah.
And I went, something inside of me was bigger than me.
Well, yeah.
And just said, you know, come home for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I ended up working at.
Now that was 1990.
That was around 1990, 91. I came back.
1991.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I came back here in 91.
And then you started working where?
I drove pizza. I drove pizza, Domino's Pizza.
And was that on Central, or where was it?
I think that was on
downtown.
I think that was on 15th Avenue.
Okay.
You know, right in behind that little plaza area.
Yeah, I know where it is now. Yeah.
So I drove there. And I drove there for a couple months, and so the real cool thing is I was a pizza driver of the month. 2 months I was there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had a roll of 20s. So I thought, man, I'm doing good. So ended up finishing there, and then I just needed something more solid, and I went to knock on the door at Spruce Capital Homes.
Yeah.
So I learned how to build homes, windows and frames, and got good at it.
Yeah.
And then there was a seasonal layoff in the winter.
You were a carpenter, finishing carpenter kind of a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have training for that, or did you just kind of pick it up?
They showed me what to do, and it was all prefab, and it was just, my cuts were just perfect.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, finished there, and then I went to the Friendship Center, and just, you go on EI, right? So I said, okay. So they ended up meeting a couple people, and we we had a small theater group.
Yeah.
So we created a small theater group, and I was only getting ready to go back. I just wanted to leave something before I go. And then the Friendship Center, they had asked, they said, we want to hire a role model. And we need you as, how would you like to help us out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they signed a contract. They said, for 6 months, I'll sign a contract. They came in with a contract for a year. That's in the old 144 George Street.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was absolutely...
We are on George Street.
Yeah.
For our guests watching, yeah.
Yeah. So that office we were in was just small.
Yeah.
You know, and there was about 4 of us. And there was just enough funding to keep the doors open and just make connections. So within the first couple of weeks I was there, John, do you remember I told those kids I'd come back?
Yeah, yeah.
Those kids were now teenagers.
Yeah.
They said you'd come back.
Right.
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, and then I went, that's when I took my guitar, met a guitar player and some other people and started playing music. They started using my music to fundraise.
Amazing, huh?
Oh, it changed everything.
You got your guitar. Can you play a little bit for me? For a guest?
Yeah, you bet.
Why don't you do that right now?
No, I'll do it right now?
Yeah, I want to hear you.
Yeah. So I've written
It's such a unique talent that people have that are, you're a good communicator, and then you have this special closeness about you where you attract people that trust you and like what you're doing. You know.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Yeah.
My father passed away during COVID, so I wrote this one. Last thing he said to me. He said that I wasn't alone and coffee was always on. So I wrote this for him this spring. On a call the other day, he said, son, how you doing? Said, oh, I was doing okay, I'm getting through with what you taught me to do. I'm getting through. I'm getting through. They said if it gets to be too much, you need someone to talk to. Pick up that phone. Coffee's always on. You're never alone. You're never alone. No matter how old you get, life is a battle of love and sin. Pick up that phone if you need a friend. But that was then, and this is now. I'm lost in this world and I don't know how, but I'm getting through. I'm getting through. No matter how old you get, life is a battle of love and sin. Pick up that phone if you need a friend. But that was then, and this is now. I'm lost in this world and I don't know how, but I'm getting through. I'm getting through. Said if it gets to be too much, you need someone to talk to. Pick up that phone. Coffee's always on. You're never alone. You're never alone, John. Never alone. You're never alone. Life is a battle of love and sin. Pick up that phone if you need a friend. But that was then, and this is now. I'm lost in this world and I don't know how, but I'm getting through. I'm getting through.
Amazing. Very good. I love it.
You know, the one thing is that making connection. I use my music to make connection.
Yeah.
To help the community and to do whatever I had to do, and it was called upon, and it challenged me out of my own skin.
Yeah.
To grow as a human being. And reconciliation for me started when I was young.
Yeah. And
reconciliation started because I grew up in a family, in the Mighty family influence, but I also knew about the Indigenous world too as well.
Now, if you say in the Metis family, and I just for our guests watching this, explain that a little bit as to what does that really mean?
Oh yeah, the Mighty family I grew up almost every day to it. It was almost like I had to explain myself in the community of who I was, and it was just some terms like, what Paquette are you? And I said, well, my name's Ivan.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family, and but the miting family has been here since 1912.
Yeah.
In Prince George, and it had a lot of influence. My grandfather had miting sawmills, and my grandmother was in the real estate.
Yeah.
And we had was family property, way on quarter section way past. I think my grandfather and him, his friends.
Yeah.
The horse log, the Chief Lake area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the family, so they had property on Nuka Lake and the property in Merch Lake area out there, and back in there, I think that's where they had some of the sawmill stuff.
Yeah.
And so I got to, and my uncles were quite the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And then family members who, have, things like the Dairy Queens and other businesses in the community. So I grew up in understanding business.
Yeah.
Understanding business, understanding logic.
Was part of your life.
Yeah, salesmanship, courtesy.
Yeah.
All of these different things, but it was the difficulty is that at the time I also grew up in a world where there was a lot of injustice, and I wanted to correct that, and the only way I could do it was this was my sword.
Yeah.
And through the arts, and to see whatever I could possibly do. So I spent a lot of time in Vancouver and to back and forth to demo work and to demo stuff, but the need got strong. The children needed me.
Yeah.
And it was a sacrifice. I sacrificed my own career.
Yeah.
And my own life in order to help people.
Yeah.
And
but which is so rewarding though, Ivan, the things that you did looking back, right?
When I look back, John, I've picked this up again.
Yeah.
And I learned to play again, but it brought more meaning into my life.
Yeah.
Because it was in 19, I have agents call me, emailing me all the time now. Once again, the universe responds that way.
Yeah.
And I'm a universal thinker. But at the same time, I studied holistic health for over 30 years. And so I didn't lose that piece of me wanting to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So made connection with educators and people. So I used that influence and that holistic methodology to help change some of that.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that in a sec. That's exciting. That's the exciting piece I'll share. But I used this and I used the modeling. So when I was working with the kids on the street and helping raise, getting extra funds from the support of the community, using salesmanship and charisma and talent, like genuine talent, and this community has always been generous, no matter what.
Yeah.
Is that wherever there's a collective need, and I always promoted it that way, as being a proud Canadian and a proud person from Prince George. This community was built on character.
Yeah.
If you want to challenge your character, Prince George is the place to come.
Yeah.
And to find yourself.
Yeah.
So I never gave up on the dream, and so I worked with some really, really cool people, and during the 90s, so when I became an elected person in the province of British Columbia, ended up negotiating terms of agreements for the Metis people in the province. It was the first time it was ever done.
Yeah.
And then the federal government asked if they intervened, and they pulled me aside and said, "We need your help."
Yeah.
And that was in 1999, they asked me about residential schools.
Yeah. You got that all. Just show us while you're doing that, and so.
So a little show and tell.
Yeah, show and tell. Yeah.
So this is
show it to the camera. Yeah, to this camera here. You
betcha.
Yeah. So who are the people all on this picture? That has a lot of history to it, right?
It does.
You were so deeply involved in this.
Yeah. So when the federal government had asked, and I was in position, but they pulled me aside, and there was met with 3 bureaucrats.
Yeah.
And they knew about my grandmother who had gone to residential school.
Yeah.
And they even knew that I went through a difficult time in the school.
Yeah, they had done their homework, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they said, "We know that you went to a place called Sacred Heart, and you had a difficult time." And that Sacred Heart is just over
it's
the
still
top
there. Yeah.
That's even Terry McConaughey has shared that with some of the members of council said, Ivan went through a rough time in this school.
Yeah.
So anyways, I always believe in you take a negative and you turn it into something positive.
Exactly.
So it took this and it became the province of British Columbia in the Métis world was split up in 7 different regions.
Yeah.
So with this portfolio, and when the feds had asked, they said, we need you to have that portfolio.
Yeah.
And can you help us create some model, a template?
Yeah.
So I asked the directors went in turn, got a youth representative from each
regions then?
Yeah.
So the young people here are all from the different regions?
They're all from the different regions, and there's myself.
As the Métis community, you standing in the middle there?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and that was when, Ivan?
This was in 1999.
Can I hold it? Yeah.
Yep. So before...
And then the other thing that happened is that then the government really became involved, the federal government, and they had you involved as well as bringing people more together of the Métis community. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and then what happened there? Now you got here...
So this here is they asked for the idea.
Yeah.
They said to create a concept. So I spent, as a visionary person...
Can we turn it around and show it a little bit to the camera?
Absolutely, you bet.
Yeah, so that is the document, a very official document. What does it say on the top, Ivan?
This here, it says, Contribution Agreement Respect in the Urban Multi-Purpose Youth Center Initiative.
And what date is on that?
That doesn't have the particular date on there.
What does it say here then? Yeah, what is that?
Between Her Majesty, the Right of Canada, represent herein the Ministry of Canadian Heritage, and herein after, as to the Minister Provincial, and the Métis Provincial Council of BC, which is MNBC.
Right.
And the...
And you were all very involved in all of this as a key individual.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then it was signed by...
It was signed by the President and myself.
Yeah.
And so what happened is that it became the 1999 to 2000. So the goal was to establish a process, a funding agent, a funding model that would engage the young people in building, bringing young people forward to the table. Now they call it BC Metis Youth.
Yeah.
But at the time...
But that didn't exist before this really happened, and this document and agreement became in effect, right?
So I was busy putting the Métis Nation on the map in BC.
Yeah.
So with respect to that document, so they asked for the idea first, and then by the time we finished the idea, so bringing the young people together to actually, the model was created before bringing the young people in. So the model was to start engaging that process.
Yeah.
And that process, it worked with that process for a few months, and the federal government had asked, can we utilize that model?
Correct.
Can we use that model to be a core model in Heritage Canada and filter through Canada?
And then what flowed from all of that is the Truth and Reconciliation.
Yes. Yeah, that's the model.
That's the model, and that's what is being celebrated, if you wish, tomorrow on the 30th, and it remembers the young people, that became victims in a way, really.
So I knew about a lot of things, and to having the pertinent information to actually visualize and to see what needed to be done.
Yeah.
Because the announcement, when they talked about that and shared more information, as I went from the office in Surrey to downtown to meet, and they basically said, "You're with us." And I went, okay, so I take that as a compliment. So they brought me in. Yeah. So I can, but the real cool thing about it is that having been part of something so amazing, because we're the Métis people they've under the Constitution in 1982. The signed document of the Queen and Canada. And it also recognized the Métis, the First Nations, Inuit, and the Métis people. We had to more formalize the Métis people. We had to.
They were really not being recognized up to that point, right?
Yeah, there was always that struggle of recognition.
Yeah.
So So from 82 to 92, you got to remember these are all working documents. There was really no process. There was little groups here and there, but in 1992, when the Royal Commission of Aboriginal Peoples report came out, the Métis people were very instrumental in weaving that together.
Bringing this all together, right?
Yes, and that's where the importance of the Métis people are.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the Métis people, I truly believe we wouldn't have come this far.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the Chartrand family.
Yeah.
And the Sinclairs.
Yeah.
And those are really strong business lawyers.
Yeah.
In family, Métis people, strong, super smart.
Yeah.
And so what they needed is that when the Healing Foundation was set up, initial $500 million to set up those processes, they needed a process for that next generation.
Now the other thing, you and me in your community, we were quite involved with last year when it became an official holiday.
Yes.
Our Recognition Day, the Truth and Reconciliation Day, September the 30th, and then what was also connected to that, Ivan, is I remember in the Clayton Park. There was a big ceremony around it, and then another thing that happened is the orange shirts became involved, and a young lady, I believe from First Nations,
the Pepper Tree,
from Williams Lake.
Oh yes,
came up with the idea, and it said on it. What did it say again, precisely? You have it on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again showing it. Every child matters.
Every child matters.
Yeah, compassion and love and chance, right? So I always remember in the park, and we were there as well, and you were there, and all our other friends, were there, and so we had ordered. I don't know how many orange shirts, and so we brought them in the back of a car, and by the time there were hundreds of people there, right? So many, and we were going to hand them out from the States, and before we knew it, everybody was wearing an orange shirt, and
thanks to you.
Thanks to you. So important, right? So that was a big. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is the. You and other friends obviously were quite involved in when COVID-19 started to happen for 47 days solidly. You guys were playing the drums in front of the hospital for 47 days solid, I believe.
Well, we just had something at the university today, and it was interesting. Is that the Wesley showed up with some songs. I showed up with a Smudge.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other. We said, we have to do something. We said, we support the community. And so we started taking these Smudge bombs around and banging drums. And before you know it, everybody started to come. And so it was just what I wanted to share was that Wesley was sitting at home, and I was synchronized defense, right?
Yeah, it was Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting at home, and I picked up my drum, and I'm looking and I'm saying, and I'm tapping on my drum, and I said, man, this isn't something in spiritual is not right.
Yeah.
And this is a plague in a pandemic. And studying plagues and pandemics, I said, this is really happening.
Yeah.
So they picked up my drum, and they started tapping on my drum and picked up a smudge, and I smudged the area, and they said, maybe I should go down to the hospital. Yeah. Because I got a lot of relatives that work. Exactly. And friends that work in the hospital.
I just wondered, now you left your bag sitting there. Maybe I get Scott to just walk through the picture here, to give the bag to Wes here, the whole bag, because because I just want to make sure that our guests see what the drums are.
Oh yeah.
And that in particular you and Wes Mitchell have been such so much in community, and we hear drums, even we sitting close to the city hall here, Remembrance Day, you guys were playing the drums. Can you take it out and so that our guests can see? Because now they say, well, what are you guys talking about with the drums?
Well, this particular drum was flown from Nanaimo.
My goodness, yeah.
It was flown from my uncle. He was a leader in his community.
Yeah.
And right on reserve.
Yeah.
And my auntie,
Can you show us the back of
this
that?
was a
that takes talent to build this, right?
It does. She said, the Vancouver Island deer.
Yeah.
And it's just a regular frame.
Yeah.
But it came with the intention when you receive a gift in spirit.
Yeah.
Is that it came in bubble wrap. It was flown here.
Yeah.
And it came first class. And I remember it came through the door.
Yeah.
I knocked on the door. I mean, when someone knocked on the door, and I could just feel it.
Yeah, yeah.
I could just feel it. And I remember that it came with ah-ho, ah-ho.
Yeah.
Ah-ho, ah-ho. And I went, that's Coast Salish.
Yeah.
And then I tapped the drum and then went.
Can you take one of your things that you can hit it a little bit, because because you and Wes and other people, in fact, I was honored to get also one of your drums, and and then certain occasions that happened, if it was in the park, Truth and Reconciliation Day for one, and then other events that happened, Canada Day, or we were standing here playing the drums, and then I want you to kind of play it, and I'm trying to make.
Did you still have your eagle feather?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
The eagle feather is, have you got one in there? Just want to show it to you.
But actually, I've got 4. These are from
I'll hold this
a
for
friend. You. These 4 eagle feathers are from a friend. And
tell what is the significance of the feather, because you use that on putting over people.
Yeah. So the significance of it could be many things.
Yeah.
I've received a lot of feathers, like a couple hundred feathers over the years. It could be as gifts, and it's also considered a high honor.
Yeah.
A very high honor to receive eagle feathers.
Yeah.
For doing deeds and works that and sometimes it's like a form of payment, monetary payment.
Yeah.
But these are from ceremony on the Queen Charlotte's.
Yeah.
And some people get wrapped in a fancy bustle, a leather bustle, but this is wrapped in a fancy silk scarf.
So sometimes what I see you do during ceremonies, when that you take the feathers and you hold it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that, other than it's an honor if that happens to you, but what is the significance of that?
The smudge is more like if you have a negative energies, it's clearing energy.
Yeah.
And it's just to clear your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and your aura. Because we all have that energy.
Yeah.
That energy body. And sometimes we're connected to other things and we're carrying things.
Yeah.
And it helps us clear and bring us back to being grounded again.
Yeah.
So but in this particular bank here, but this drum, it came, and it was an honor drum, and it was actually in a potlatch ceremony.
Wow.
And it was flown here, packaged up. My uncle,
yeah,
it was their family drum in his honor, but he said, this is my nephew's honor.
Yeah.
And he gave it to me for the work that I've done with the people.
Wow.
For the many years.
Yeah. Wow, that's a means
a
lot.
Tears in my eyes when it came by.
Yeah.
And it was it was really cool, is that there was a bunch of motorcycles that went by all at the same time.
Yeah.
But that was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, balance, eh?
Yeah.
Balance.
So much history, so much culture, and so far beyond what a lot of people fully appreciated, other than that has gone for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? That has built,
thousands.
Yeah, thousands of years, really.
It brought me to a place where I could share that. I remember I couldn't share that. I couldn't. It was always like the hidden stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was also the workings behind that actually from the modeling that changed those things.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff that's been behind the scenes, been behind the scenes, of being on the front lines, and what's really cool is that over the last in 2010, I got the opportunity to work with the head of Northern Health.
Yeah.
Dr. Bowring.
Okay.
And then to the partner in Men's Health.
Okay.
So I thought that was a turning point, a really significant turning point.
Yeah.
It was building a lot of agencies and troubleshooting, and still a troubleshooter for all levels of government.
Yeah.
But I've took a step back during COVID to see what I needed to do, and now now I'm going to be with the doctors, the rural doctors, to help them understand so they can have a better relationship and teach them a holistic methodology.
Yeah.
And so they seem to bring them to those parallels.
Yeah.
Is that our medicines and our teachings come from the same place.
Yeah.
And that's almost like a first.
Yeah.
So I'll be in the Marriott Hotel all day on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to that.
Right.
It's taken 12 years to get there, 30 years of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so
that's a good thing, right? So that becomes better known, better understood, and all the things that are in the history and the culture of, as you already said, thousands of years, really.
It's ancient. I always say ancient wisdom in a modern times, eh?
Yeah.
And so that those teachings never leave. They're always there.
Yeah.
We just have to pick them up and embrace them and support one another.
Yeah, but it also takes commitment of bringing it forward, right? Like both you and Wes, your friend, our friend, Wes Mitchells, have done such a great job of, being active in it. And
but it was, when you look at Wes looked at me and said, "What?" I said, coming from an Oxford thinking. And it was coming from a biblical perspective, because I'm both. I have my culture and my love for God.
Yeah.
And looked at him and I said, well, let's go 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah.
Just like and I was I just like, well, let's go a few extra days. but it was and then they said, what do we do after that?
Yeah.
We were staying at the university. I said, so what do we do? And they said, well, if this is going to be here for a while, why don't we meet every week?
Exactly.
On Monday night at 6 o'clock and just keep going for as long.
And you have done that and still doing it.
Oh yeah.
Right? Even now.
Yes. It's we're to see the window full. At the height of the pandemic. Yeah. It you had to be there. Yeah. We just there's a power greater than ourselves asking us to do this.
Yeah.
And when people say that COVID wasn't real, it's real.
Oh yeah.
We seen it firsthand.
And no question about that.
And it was when the windows and the stories of families. Yeah. Some families would get 4 family members would come in and they'd fly them to different parts.
I've seen it myself, so being there a couple of times and then seeing that commitment and people coming in and seeking strength and understanding and so much part of it. I just wondered if you can do something a little bit with your drum, so that people understand the songs that go with the drumming. Like the.
I'll share something that I use when I'm in community and I'm doing healing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this drum was for healing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'll go in the community and I'll put the drum down, and I'll put the drum down with in the community, and I'll put the drum down. Yeah. And I'll have other things. I'll have. To share that, put down some sweetgrass.
And those again are what, Ivan? I know you've given me some, but I just want to explain it to our guests.
This is sweetgrass.
Yeah.
And so it's braided in, it's more than 7 strands, but in 7 strands in 3 ways. I always say that, for the body, mind, and spirit,
Yeah.
But I also say, you know, and some of the elders say, "Oh, you mean the Holy Trinity?" So the Holy Trinity too.
Yeah.
And so but it's, you know, bound in 7 strands.
Yeah.
And in 3 ways. My hair used to be that long too. Eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Was your hair that long at one time? No,
I don't think so.
so what in here, and then I lay down, you know, put down some. These are different smudges from around the world.
Okay.
And this smudge is from Saskatchewan. That was a gift for helping people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a different kind of a smudge. And this is from a place called Squilax.
What is that?
And if you take a smell of that, it's pretty cool stuff. I'll open that one for you. This is from Squilax. That's a different territories have different smudges, eh? Different smells. And this is a fungus that someone gave me. That's from Saskatchewan too.
Wow. Interesting.
And that's just kind of stuff that I put into a smudge, and I put some tobacco in there.
Yeah.
And I lay it all down so people
can... And this is the smudge.
And that's in the smudge too as well.
Yeah.
So when I have this, so then I kind of mulch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'll share what's in that.
Yeah.
So what's in there is some sage, white sage.
Yeah.
Some tobacco.
Yeah.
Sweetgrass.
Yeah.
And some cedar.
Yeah.
And but the sages I have are from different parts of the world.
Right.
One of the parts is from Jordan, the same place where Christ was from.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I use that in the smudge bowl, and I take that and I put it in a shell. Almost pull the shell out, and then so I take that, and that's what we've been smudging the paper with, and we just kind of put that in there. And then we just take that and put a little more in there, and then we just light that up, and we take the feathers.
Yeah, and that's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would just
so do you light it up, and then it starts to smoke?
Yeah.
And okay.
And it helps and some people want to smudge and some people don't. But it's to the eyes and to the ears, to the nose and to the mouth to help you see better, to help you hear better.
Yeah.
And hear good things, eh?
Yeah.
And taste good things, and also to protect and shield your body, get rid of that negative energy.
Yeah.
And to bring in the good energy. So I've done that for ceremonial, and one thing is that I've done a lot of ceremonial things in the last while. Especially there was a friend of mine who had a motorcycle accident, and helped. That was up by just recently in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It's like his spirit came to me and wanted me to make connection with the family because he believed in a lot of this, and he had asked, and so I did something for the family to help separate the energy, because it's all energy, right?
Yeah.
To helping that there's trauma left there. Yeah. And that's the same trauma is left in our peoples and stuff, in all people. Yeah. And so went to that spot where the motorcycle accident was.
He got killed, right?
Yes.
On the
by Haldie Road there on the highway.
Road, yeah. I saw that, yeah.
Went down tobacco, and we laid down a smudge, and then I put olive oil. Yeah. Olive oil from the church represents the spirit, eh? Yeah. And it was just a gut feeling. His partner felt so relieved. Yeah. And had better sleeps, but it was over 3 weeks. His spirit kept coming, and to help them release that energy. Yeah. And that's what helps our people to help let go. Yeah. And so, and I know that one of the things that we need this next generation in our schools to help our children identify. Yeah. With their cultural identity, and to the things we're dealing with on the street. And there's a lot, because he used to work with people on the street when they remember all those bars and stuff, and he worked with the street kids and stuff. These things, these issues have been going on since the time before Christ. Exactly. And drugs and alcohol and all that. Exactly. So the world has gotten to be little more popular, a little more.
I agree with that.
And people, as we start to reclaim I think, we have to look after that. The more we educate that next generation, and this will slowly go by, and we'll have a healthier society.
I agree with that.
With more activity and possibilities.
Absolutely.
Working together in a good way.
Absolutely, I agree.
I know. Back, it was interesting. I was thinking about this morning. I said back in 1982. Brink's Forest Products was there, and then when we had a little company. And my uncle had a little company, and he was doing firewood, and then we always used to go, and he said, you said, go get those mill ends. If you want those mill ends, go get them.
Yeah. From my mill, yeah.
That was our family, and then we those mill ends went to a lot of people that needed that kindling wood. Yeah. To help them keep warm in the winter.
Yeah. Ivan, it was a pleasure to, as a friend, as well as helping our guest to better understand history and the Aboriginal and Métis communities and some of the ceremonies around it. And then I had no idea that you were as talented as, I knew you were probably good, but as talented as you were with your song and touch me here.
Thank you. Want me to play another one before we sign up? Yeah. Okay.
Like that.
You're my friend.
Okay.
Always.
Sounds good. Thanks, Howard.
Always.
Yeah.
And then we walk this world together, eh?
Yeah.
That's important. A friend, there are some friends who were having some difficulty, and they needed I wrote this for the elders, for a fundraiser. I've seen the dark, but I live in the light. And I've done wrong, yet I made things right. 'Cause it's the journey of the soul. Journey of the soul, yeah. It's a journey of the soul. I've been so high and yet I've been so low. I held on too tight and I had to let go. 'Cause it's a journey of the soul. Journey of the soul. I stood for others who couldn't speak. I was put down in the name of peace. But I had my victory. 'Cause it's the journey of the soul. Journey of the soul. And I've had lovers, I still have my friends. I've had a broken heart and I had one man. 'Cause it's the journey of the soul. Journey of the soul. Oh, journey of the soul. 'Cause I've seen the dark, yeah, but I live in the light. And I've done wrong, and that I made things right. And it's the journey of the soul. It's a journey, John. journey of the soul. I'll keep writing. You keep writing too, okay?
Absolutely.
Ivan means John.
Yes.
John means Ivan.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's the journey of the soul. Journey of the soul.
First class.
Likewise, sir.
Thanks, Ivan.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.